Hello and good morning. Your bonus ditty of the day, random music that came to my head this morning was from Oklahoma. The farmer and the cowman should be friends. No idea why. It's just in there. It's just in there circulating. So, hello everybody. If you've got a random part of a song circulating in your head, tell us in the comments. Everyone gets it. At least I do. Welcome to this Wednesday wrap-up. My name is Margaret Pennard. I'm a historical fiction author and eclectic reader, and you're on Booktube. So, welcome to a Wednesday wrap-up. I do these approximately every other Wednesday, and I just review pretty shortly all the books that I've read in the last 2 weeks. I've got 6 books this time, and they range near and far, let's say, also in ratings. So I just thought it would be fun to talk about the modality of all these reads. Do they satisfy a readathon prompt? Are they from the library or owned? Is it a first read or a reread? And were they recommended by somebody? So I wrote those down so that I would remember to apply those to each book as we go. If you think those things are interesting, feel free to subscribe and thumbs up to the channel, but I'm sure most of you have already been here before and know the drill. So I've got a question of the day. I'm just going to say hello to the chat. The question of the day, which is in the chat, is what's your favorite historical style? And you will notice I'm representing with a sort of historical style. So I'm going to star those and say, hi, Eloise, fellow author. Hi, Eva, fellow author. Thank you. I'm feeling dapper. Katpa is here, fellow author. Lovely to see you. And Julie is here. Hello, friends. So nice to spend time with you again. Eva says, it's already mid-March. Someone slow it down. Holy heck. Yeah, it's the 11th. Emma just had a book drop yesterday. Emma Bennett. I thought it was like March 1st, and now it's past March 10th. So yeah, the time is a-flying like a train because it is train readathon month. Eloise says, I've got about 5 random songs circulating in my mind at any given time. Well, you wake up, like, you would think this is the one. Hi, Greg. That would come to your head. Oh, what a beautiful morning. No. The farmer and the cowman should be friends. It's pretty annoying as a tune as well. Eva says, I'll keep my songs to myself. Why? Feel free. Share. Julie's answer. Oh, let me start it. I'm going to wrap these up. Yes. Okay. All right. I'll give you some time to answer the historical fashion question, and I will just note that my historical fashion is not my favorite, but it's one I was just researching. I had a question about whether you would call this a stock or a cravat, and actually it's like the same thing in context. So anyway, that got me thinking about it. So I thought I'd pop that in there. As I said, I've got 6 books. I've got them in a particular order. I'm going to go through the less detailed ones first, and then the more detailed ones at the end. I struggled with whether to break this out as a standalone book review or not, and I may still do this, but I went through and highlighted all the parts that I tabbed, and then I reduced it by like 2/3 to the ones that I want to share with everybody, and then I'll make it a standalone, I think, with more of those tabbed areas that are more detailed, maybe not for the general audience. But let's see. I'm doing 4 and then 2. That's right. Let's see. Okay. I'm getting some more good answers, but I'm going to go with the music one first. Oh, shoot. How's that start? I know the song. I'm going to be the man who wakes up next to you. That's right. When I wake up, that's what it is. It's the Proclaimers. That's awesome. And now that's in Eva's head. All right. I'd call it a caller. Yes, but is it a detachable collar? Like they had different ways of designing things, so it makes it interesting. There's worse songs to have in your noggin. Yeah, Proclaimers are pretty top shelf, I think. For sure, it's just wild how fast it moved in. Oh man. I read as much as I write lately too, but I'm mostly a fangirl when I'm here. Okay, you're talking about fellow author, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think it just sort of drifts. It expands and contracts like the lungs, let's say. All right, so I'm gonna leave the question of the day pinned, so if people come in, they can still talk about it. But so that I don't forget, Eloise says, I really love Victorian fashion, but I obviously have a soft spot for ancient Greek fashions, so flowy and light. And if you ever want to see representations of this in gorgeous Technicolor, check out Eloise's Instagram stories because it's pretty lit. Julie's answer is 1940s US women's hair and clothing, as exemplified by my mom in old pictures. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, people wore hats, people had different styles of coats. There were different rules. I feel like a more formality made for more intentional choices, let's say. And Greg says traditional Highland dress prior to Culloden. Interesting. I think there's a lot of myths about that. So, yeah, pretty cool. And Eva, I'd have said the roaring 20s fashion and music, but now it kind of creeps me out because Great Gatsby is like today. So I'll say Victorian gardens. Is that a fashion choice? I think we're veering off track here. Okay. All right. We're going to start with dun, 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 one of my recent favorite authors because he's a historical fiction author and he has like 7 books in his series. I think he's written other books. He wrote other books because he's passed away. But like the series that he's famous for is the Matthew Shardlake Tudor Mysteries. And this is a series of 7 books. I read Dissolution in my last Wednesday wrap up, and I read 2 for this reading wrap up. Wait, there we go. Revelation and Heartstone, which I think are 4 and 5, and they're really great. He's a great researcher. He's great at putting setting details in, so I love the historical ambiance. The detective bit is really fun. He's usually in danger, like every detective ever is always like in danger of his life throughout the course of every investigation. He's a lawyer, so you get a little bit of background about how courts worked and like the indulgences. It's not the Catholic court church scandal, but it is quite a scandal how the Tudor courts were run. And specifically in this one, you learn about the Court of Wards, which is not only the courts that took care of the properties of churches, which is a lot, but also people who couldn't handle it yet because they weren't old enough, the wards of the court, and basically how it was just totally corrupt. And this one, Revelation, takes a bit from Book of Revelations, and there's some pretty gruesome stuff in here. It's like a serial killer vibe in the Tudor times. So not my favorite, but really well told. So if you're in the market for some historical mysteries, detective stories, looking for that for a readathon later, I don't know, gold on the cover, fancy calligraphy, stickers, I don't know, whatever prompts. For me, this was not for readathon. So let me go back to my list. I own these. I just picked them up recently because I was trying to finish the series. It's not for a readathon prompt. It's not a reread. This is the first time. And it was not recommended by anyone. I just wanted to finish the series after I got the first one. So yeah. So that's pretty quick. CJ Sansom. What's sad, what I pointed out last wrap up is that Dissolution, the first book in the series, was successful enough to get a first season and they totally biffed it. And so it was canceled pretty quick. Sean Bean was in the series as well as like some very young up and coming actors, but it's not the acting. It was like the costuming, the dramatic writing edits that were really sort of off-piste. So unfortunately, we don't get a series of these other books, but they tried. C'est la vie. Let's see. Cat Paw. Because it's my time and it's high time. I got a new voice. Gonna sing a new song. Fly up into the sky. Time. I've been laying too low too long. I've been laying too low for so long. I don't know the tune for that one. It sounds very zippy, but I don't know it, which is just odd because I haven't heard it for decades. I know. How long has it been since I heard The Farmer and the Cowman? Years. It's so funny. Yeah, more Proclaimers lyrics. Yeah, that's a good one. It's the more famous song. 500 miles, 500. Yeah. Okay, so Victorian morning attire. That's a fun choice. That's very formal and like tiered and indexed. Kappa says, I don't think I can pin it down to one period. Obviously, I love the old Gothic Victorian, but also the 40s, 1940s, and Art Deco, which is 1920s. Those are all fun. They tried. Talking about Highland dress before Culloden. So Culloden was in 1746, and so it's pretty hard to know what people were wearing before that. You've got paintings, you've got representations, but there is some confusion because we've got historical fiction that sort of rewrote that time period. And do I know more about this than Greg? Maybe. I've done a fair amount of research online for costuming choices for my books because my books are in the 1820s, 1830s time period. Like that one starts in there. And for all intents and purposes, peasants in the outskirts of the empire were living like 100 years before. So I was trying to like backdate costuming choices. But yeah. All right. So that was the first two books down. The next one I put in here is, this one. Okay. This book. Okay, as you can see, it's a library book. It's got a barcode there. It was for a readathon prompt. I discovered this book, Nature is Never Silent by Madeline Zeige, translated by Alexandra Roche. I discovered this in the Climathon Storygraph Challenge, which Tasman has put up in previous years. And so I definitely went through all the prompts and was like, ooh, that looks good. Put it on my wish list or, never ending TBR. And this is about animal communication. And it has a really cool cover. You can tell by my prevarication here that this did not go well, right? So animal and plants communicating with each other. Really interesting. Translated book, even better. Like a little bit more diverse viewpoint, right? It wasn't, I didn't track who it was recommended actually, because I don't think it puts, does it put who put it in the challenge? I can't remember. Anyway, I got it on my list from the Climathon Storygraph Challenge, and then I got it from my library to read. And I think I got, so if you know my system, there's two turn downs to the corners, and there's a whole bunch of turn downs at the bottom. And I'll just read you why I had trouble with this book. It's the tone. I don't know if it's the translation. I think it's deeper than the translation. I think it's the actual author's tone and style. Yeah, the first one's on page 29. So he's talking about striking the right note, the speed of sound. The temperature slows them all the way down to 332 meters per second. Figures in decibels, on the other hand, illustrate the different strengths with which a sound event meets its surroundings. But enough of the theory. Let's delve into a sound symphony that only nature could compose. What a pity that we can't hear most of it with our own ears! Exclamation point. Let me share another one. Talking about smells. As exciting as this type of information is in nature, we still know far too little about how living beings specifically use chemical signals to communicate, including us humans. Or can you explain why in certain situations you turned up your nose, kept your nose clean, or stuck your nose in the air? Unrelated colloquialisms having to do with smells and the nose. Just stick that in there. What was this one? Oh, wait, that's separate. Let me show a third example here. Oh, no, that's aquaplaning. That's different. Okay. So basically, if it's not obvious, what I disliked intensely about this and started hate reading because I wanted to finish it, but it was like 29 pages before I got irritated, is that the tone is very Mr. Rogers, but it's an adult book. It's a science book. It's got a lot of scientific information. There's some cool facts in there for sure, but I feel like I'm really being talked down to with this like folksy exclamation point and weird stuff being thrown in. So this did not work for me. It might work for someone else. If those didn't irritate them and you were mystified as to why I was quoting that, then this is the book for you. It also used the term aquaplaning. Does anyone know what aquaplaning is? I think that's a translation thing because I say hydroplaning when I'm talking about water on the road. And aqua and hydro both mean water, but from different languages. So I'm wondering, does anyone else in the English-speaking world use aquaplaning that I don't know about? Let me know. And then the other thing that I put in here, for someone who is a biologist who studies animal communications, I wish they were a little bit more aware of the current situation. This is a new book. It's talking about decomposition, eating, and being eaten. And if living beings don't feed on dead organisms or aren't able to produce their own food, they have to find somewhere else to get their daily energy intake. We humans need only stroll to the kitchen, the supermarket, or restaurant. There, the food is more or less ready to be eaten, and we don't need to convince our food to come along with us, because it's explaining why you put out chemical signals to like attract your food to you. And I just thought, no, not all of us humans need to just go to the kitchen where we've bought food, the supermarket where we buy food, or a restaurant where we buy prepared food. And I thought that was just a very lazy and exclusive way of explaining it, because I wish more of us were better acquainted with our food. So I really didn't like that just casual thing laid down there. So anyway, I did not like that, but I finished. So let me know if that's way off base or if you feel the same sort of distaste. Let's see. Ava says they tried. I didn't get what that was about. Libro Paradiso is here. Hello. How well did Victorian and earlier era fashion mask body odor? Interesting question. What was lurking underneath all that extravagant coterie? Yeah, that's true. That's true. Hey, Mojo. Forgot the time zone. The time zones haven't changed. It's the time that has changed. But yeah, we get it. Yeah, that was like 4 days ago. Come on, girl. Eloise says, it's my understanding that the underlayers were linen, which were washed regularly and wicked away moisture, where the decorative outer bits weren't washed much, but not smelly because they weren't on the skin picking up oils. Yeah, Cat Paw. Yep, agrees with that. Good explanation, Eloise. I think this might be a fun YouTube video. I'll star that, explore it later. Great video about it. Okay, yeah, there we go. Oh, it's a Bernadette Banner video. Bernadette has a bunch of awesome resources for Victorian fashion. Yes, I have one of her videos in my watch later list right now, and it's about, oh, I know what it's about. It's about 3 different people who investigate costuming and sewing, but from different angles. Someone from the theater, someone from the sewing community, and someone from, I don't remember what the third one is. Cosplay, maybe? So it's like much less technical pieced together stuff. And they're all trying to recreate something to see like how their creations come out. Yeah. Aquaplaning. Sounds like something some British person would say. I mean, maybe if we've got British people on. Excuse me. Please let us know if they say that in Britain, because I've never heard it. Yeah. I just hate reading it. I was just like scanning. There were some interesting facts. I found out some more zombie insects. And if Alan from Alan's Reads watches this, like, that was cool. I discovered my first zombie insect from a book that we've both read that was about like the English countryside. This one talks about a fungus that goes to ants' brains and like directs them where to go, and another animal, another insect. And I was like, that's really interesting. Oh, and the reason why I have a rabbit in the banner here is because I learned a new term, which was kind of funny, which is Warren Pong. Does anyone know what that means? And if Alan was here, he might know, but I thought it was pretty funny. So that's now entered my vocabulary. My computer is set for EST, so it changes, but we don't until the 29th. So you've got two times to work with in your life for a short period of time or a few weeks. Yeah, that's annoying. That's gonna throw me for a loop. Thank you. What is a warren? What is a warren? Yeah, Julie knows. There you go. Okay, so Pong, I think I've heard of with like frat boy movies. It's a bad smell, particularly from like pee and poop. And so a warren Pong is the bad smell that is unique to a certain family of rabbits, which live in a warren, which is a bunch of different pathways, kind of like an anthill. And they pee and poop at different points so that they know where they're going and like they're telling each other things. So they're communicating with chemical signals. Colony of rabbits. Did you Google it? Yeah. So I'd never heard that phrase together. And I thought, oh, I'm going to remember that one. Exactly. Okay. So there's that. That's 3 books down. What's the next one? The next one is a little mass market paperback. And this has got a little Scottish flag because it's set in Scotland. And let's see. I own this. It is not for a readathon prompt. It is a reread, and it wasn't recommended by anyone. I picked it up somewhere random. Oh, no, I picked it up at another read-through, which is where I used to work. So, yeah, beautiful Argyle, West Coast. Someone who is having a life crisis goes off to help a friend, a family member, run a big manor house that is now a hotel. And everything's going wrong, and they manage a bunch of crises, and there's different people who are creating the crises and they have to be negotiated, and there's like family relationships. But the main storyline is like one of the people who's working at the hotel and the way he has to learn and grow. And our main character who had the crisis, who goes to help, the way she is learning and growing and coming to like negotiate her own crisis. And I just thought reading at this time, see, no turned down corners on the bottom, turned up, I should say. Reading it through this time, I just got a lot more about the language that the author was using, Alexandra Raife. She seemed to be doing it intentionally about like psychological growth and learning about your strengths and weaknesses and how relationships work. And I just really like that because I'm trying to figure that stuff out and get better at it. So it's a romance set in Scotland, contemporary, 1999, but it's also like just smart and relationally smart, which I appreciate. So I like that. So that was a reread. And now I'm going to take a break before I jump into my last 2, which are going to be a bit more detailed. So upcoming events, have you got any to share? Or, order links like Emma Bennett's latest novel set in Cornwall. I just wanted to drop in here. I don't have a bunch of plans or events or anything, but Friday's stream is going to be double tag. It's going to be fun. It's going to involve music. And what was the other one? I've already forgot. I listed out some music choices. And Booktube channels. So I don't know if I should list the Booktube channels ahead of time. I don't know. That's an etiquette thing. Do you list it in the description before you go live so that people who are tagged or referenced know to watch you live? Or do you wait till after so that it's not seen as like trying to like draw attention? I don't know. It's a little bit of a weird thing. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you have an event. Feel free to share a link. Eloise says, thanks, Watership Down, for traumatizing me and teaching me what a warren is. Wait. Oh, you said I know what a warrant is. Who said they didn't? I thought you said you didn't. Okay. Sorry, I read it wrong. Yeah, you know. Hi, Brian. Hello. That's how my family communicates, doesn't everyone? Oh, yeah. Oh, and Cat Pow is referring to Eloise talking about Watership Down. I never read Watership Down or saw it. I think it might have been a movie or something later, but yeah, I never. Whew. Yeah. So I missed that one. Also, Where the Red Fern Grows, I never read, but I did watch Old Yeller. So, ugh. Hi. I wonder what a warrant is because that's when I opened this live. Well, hopefully the comments will show you people know, and yeah, they're being funny. Oh my gosh, Watership Down. My dad read it to me as my first novel. That's a hard one. Also, hi, Tasman. Nice to see you. Unfortunately, I read this one translated from the German, and it was a no for this author's tone and style, but lots of interesting animal and plant communication facts. So a Climathon read that was not my favorite. I ended up hate reading it, but hey, a Climathon read is a Climathon read. There was a movie, says Eloise, and it was about as awful as Animal Farm's movie, which I also didn't watch. It's a colony of wascally wabbits. Yeah, that's cute. All right, so no events being seen. I'm going to move along to my first book, which is the one that I was considering doing standalone and may do later because there's lots of things, but I'm going to focus on a few. These are all the things, and then I just sort of starred a few on the side. So to prepare, ta-da! Hospicing Modernity by Vanessa Machado de Oliveira. And the subtitle is Facing Humanity's Wrongs and the Implications for Social Activism. So you may realize, oh, this goes with my social activism, Unit 2, spring curriculum. Sorry, winter curriculum. I'm thinking about the spring curriculum already. And oh, yes, all of the things. I own it. I actually ordered this new from a local bookstore. It is a book for Climathon and a 5-star book. So definitely one I can recommend wholeheartedly. Not a reread, first read. And it was recommended. It's the only one on this list that was recommended. And it's from a climate podcast called Planet Critical, which is run by a Scotswoman named Rachel Donald. And she has, I think every week for like a season, she has guests on to talk about different aspects of climate change and catastrophe. And she does really good in-depth interviews. So Planet Critical, she's got a YouTube channel as well as a podcast if you listen to those more often. And that's where I heard her mention this book. And then I looked up whether she had been a guest. The author here had been a guest on Rachel's channel, and she had. And I'd actually listened to it, but I didn't like click into actually reading the book. And so when she referenced it in a subsequent conversation is when I was like, ooh, I want to read that book, which is kind of silly. But that's how our brains work, right? So Vanessa Machado de Oliveira is a Brazilian indigenous educational philosopher activist. That's how I would describe her. She's pretty awesome. She's, when I say educational philosophy, she talks about her jobs in education, design, like development, and what she was doing and how she was questioning it, and then how she got into the social activism of education and development, because a lot of it is about the relationship between the developed and developing world, as we call them. So she talks about modernity, and you may be wondering, what's modernity? Modernity. It's an unusual way to call what she's talking about, right? I'm glad Richard isn't here. So she talks about modernity as really being the same as coloniality. And short way to phrase that, meaning like modernity is something we have accepted as the modern world, and all of us assume this linear progression of history, and it's really a choice. It's not an inevitable, natural fact of the world, and it's really hurting our choices of staying in the world as a human civilization. So this is right up my climate collapse alley. So Oh, let's see. Page 36 is my first one I'm going to quote here, which is about who will benefit from reading this book. And you may recognize someone in this description. Therefore, readers who will find this book most useful are already going through disenchantments and disillusionments with multiple aspects of modernity. No one is completely disenchanted with all of it, and she explains that in the book. Some of these readers may feel extremely frustrated and disheartened with self-serving, feel-good, quick-fix approaches to social and global change because they cannot ignore the complexities and paradoxes related to modernity's violence and unsustainability. However, they may feel ill-equipped to navigate these complexities and paradoxes and may find themselves immobilized without the tools for getting unstuck. They may also feel that they do not have words to describe what they are going through or a community that could relate to their struggles. Others who may already be used to examining complicities and privilege may be seeking new vocabularies and supports to face the difficulties and failures of this kind of work. So that's just a beautiful paragraph describing exactly where I am right now. So obviously this book was partly for people like me, which I appreciated a lot. She does a lot of theoretical work and setup and a lot of her own story and her own learning and a lot of examples. And at every chapter end, she has discussions to sort of reflect on as you're trying to incorporate and understand this very sort of mindset changing work, which is really helpful, I thought. The next one I started was about acceptance. Okay, so page 189. The chapter is Living and Dying Well. And it's one reason why acceptance of the collapse is so hard. Let's see. Okay, many assume that once people accept the likelihood of collapse, they will stop fighting for change or indulge in fatalistic behavior, since there is no utility maximizing or teleological motivation to act. Accepting the potential or likelihood of social and ecological collapse, in this case, is equated with speeding it up. It's a small piece of this whole book, but there's a lot to unpack there because I think we definitely see people being fatalistic, nihilistic, and saying, well, there's nothing we can do, so why do anything, right? We see that in people. And we have to, in her mind, decouple the acknowledging and accepting that collapse is coming with skipping forward to, well, I guess that's it. We had a good run. Because like those two things are not necessarily combined. And so I was like, that's a really good point. And I think that's a way to clap back at people who are telling you like accepting it is dangerous. Like not if you don't make that choice, right? So I thought it was interesting. 215, we have an instance of Biblioserendipity. Here we go. Okay, so if you listen to, it might be my last wrap up when I was talking, or no, I think it was two wrap ups ago. I was talking about the blue machine. And this whole chapter is called There Is No Away. And yeah. So the blue machine is about how the ocean works. And there was this one particular passage that was talking about the example of the Thames River cleanup in the 19th century because there was so much poop effluent going down the river and it was creating problems and smells. And then they shoved it further down the river. And then they continued to pick up solid waste from their sewage facilities and like drop it out in the North Sea, even into like 1960s, 1980s. So this is an example of the thinking of just make it go away. And what she's saying is the earth is a closed system. There is no away. This is colonial thinking, basically, because if it doesn't affect you, then it's okay, right? And she uses a very specific example. She's gone to, I can't remember where this person is, Peru? I think it's Peru. So she goes and visits this person who's become like a a grandmother figure / mentor to her. And she lives in that village while she's doing development projects and stuff like that. And one of the things she confronts is this mindset of putting things away, and very literally shit, because there's a toilet issue in that in this village there are no toilets. And her hostess, her mentor, just gives her a bucket and says, I'll just collect it every morning, kind of like a chamber pot. Don't worry about it. It's what we all do, right? And she has this hang up about handing her, what do I call this? Feces, I guess, in a bucket to this lady, because it's there's all this sort of like shame and unsanitary like reactions coming up. And it's just like, that's the system that they use, and they all stay healthy with this system. But she wants to build a toilet so that it's healthier and more sanitary, and doesn't realize that that's her colonialized thinking, trying to make it go away for these people. I thought that was really fascinating. So here's the passage about that. Modernity is fixated on a project of perfect form, efficient functionality, and maximum regulation, including sanitary regulation. The intention is to control nature and to achieve timeless permanence, to defeat decomposition and death. In order to do that, modernity needs to hide the shit. Flush toilets are a great way of doing that. Flush toilets have been designed to sanitize our metabolic reality. That was just so good. And the fact that it really like went right back to that example from the Blue Machine was, I thought, a perfect Biblioserendipity example. And I mean, if Brian is still here, we're co-creators of that phrase. So it goes big on Booktube. We started it, right? So that was really great. And then one more, just 234, just a couple pages later. Nope, a couple more pages. Okay, so here's something that I have mentioned a few times, and I don't know enough about mental health diagnoses, medical stuff, to really firmly believe this, but it's my intuition speaking. And this is like a little confirmation of it that makes me feel like, I think that may be like trending in the right direction. This chapter is called As Things Fall Apart. The single story of modernity is no longer tenable, which has led to a host of different outcomes, including an increased sense of anxiety regarding not only the fulfillment of modernity's promises, but also a general lack of certainty and guaranteed futurity, which are very colonial things. The end of modernity may not manifest primarily as economic or ecological collapse, but as a global mental health crisis where the structures of modernity within us start to crumble. Oh, yes. Yes, right? So if you think like this is a choice that some people in society made a long time ago to get power, right? To exploit others to get power. They use money, they used violence. It's this whole system that's been around for hundreds of years. But it's a choice, and it depends on, just like misogyny, it depends on internalized structures and values. So we all carry these structures within us. And when they start not computing with what we're seeing in reality, kind of like grocery prices and gas prices and electoral promises, I don't know. We have this like breakdown of like this, what's it called when you're holding two different concepts together in your brain? It just starts to melt, to break down. And so a global mental health crisis. And I thought, hey, that's a good name for what we're going through right now. How about that? So it's about helping modernity to die and culling from it the lessons and whatever we can, while midwifing a new reality and a new system and a new community, wherever we are, into existence. And so this is a 5-star Climathon read. There's a whole bunch more that I highlighted that was super interesting, and I think I will do a standalone book review. But if you want to talk to me about this, definitely talk to me about this. Fabulous book. I'm going to put that on the same level as I Want a Better Catastrophe in terms of like mindset change and just like really engaging me where I am. That may not be where you are. She definitely spends a lot of time at the beginning saying, this is who the book is for. If you are here, you should not read this because it's not going to make sense or it's not going to feel good. So yeah, there's a whole content warning. She's really good. And if you want to listen to her on the podcast, that's one thing, or check out the book. I'll put a link down below in the description. Just really good. All right, going back to the chat to see if any of this is being picked up. Let's see, where was I? Oh, the only German nature author I trust is Peter Wohlleben. See, I didn't really get along with his writing either. I've only read one of his books, but this is the style. Maybe it's like a German style. I don't know. I just felt it just felt condescending to me. Mojo says, I have a couple I had to walk to the kitchen. A couple? Oh, see, now I don't remember what this is about. A couple time zones? You'll have to refresh my memory. Libro says, traumatic stories are great for kids. I loved them growing up. Okay, that's a take. Mojo says, magnetic energy in 30 days. Oh, the announcements, the events. Yay. Okay, so Mojo's got a book releasing tomorrow, March 12th, Magnetic Energy in 30 days. Ooh, and Once a Warlock, which is releasing next month in a few weeks. So I think this is going to be nonfiction and this is going to be fiction, if I'm getting those right. And then Blood Hunted, April 16th. That's going to be a fiction, right? One of your like urban fantasy series. That sounds fun. So Greg is the only one that has responded to the book comments. There is no away, a powerful and provocative phrase. Yeah. No, she writes in English. She speaks and writes in English for many of her gigs. And I think she's written a second book. And that's part of basically a very intense promotional awareness raising 4 years. And I think lately she's withdrawn and sort of gone, okay, I need to go back to myself and my circle and my community and like stop being so outward facing. So if you're looking for her to like be on social media, that is a no. But I appreciate the cycle of, okay, I'm going to devote some time to being out in the world, going on all the podcasts, talking to shows, trying to get people to understand. And then when that's over, okay, I need to return to my work and like keep processing with people and getting to know more like strategies or whatever. I resonate with that. Tasman says cognitive dissonance. Thank you. That's the phrase I was trying to find. A state of discomfort felt when two or more modes of thought contradict each other. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so that I was using the US political thing as an example, but I was describing the global mental health crisis could be due to like our reality not matching up with the structures of modernity. Yeah, it's really, I thought, powerful. Also, this author immediately landed on my wish list. Thank you so much. My pleasure. My pleasure. Like I said, she's got a second book that's hospicing something else. But yeah, this is the one that I've been seeing, and so I got this first. So yeah, 5-star book, Climathon read. Woohoo! Way to go. And then last book. So I had an ambulance, and now I have a little wheat plant for the Populist Reader. This is also a Climathon read, but it's also a research read. So it was like a double dip. And let's see, I own it. I got it a while ago. It does work for a readathon. And it was not recommended by anyone. This was a chance find, but as you can see, I had a lot of things in there to focus on and look up and think about. So selections from the works of American populist leaders, edited by George B. Tindall. And so I had a book a while ago that was about populism versus fascism. And I thought I could get into that because there's some confusion in my head around people using the term populism for movements today and my reading around populism from the 1890s, which is the first time it came around in America. And there's a lot to learn from and not do from the 1890s movement because it crumbled pretty spectacularly. But I feel like its heart was in the right place. And the book on populism versus fascism was way too technical and picky and academic. And so I didn't get along with that. I struggled. It's still in the pile. I don't think I gave it away yet, but I was like 80 pages in and just like so slow and dense. So with the caveat that like I can't apply this term to things nowadays because the professor was emphasizing the fact that people use it in different ways and it means different things and whatever. So with that reservation in place, I was reading this in historical context because this is all articles, speeches, platforms of political parties from the 1890s. And it was put together in 1966. Look at that classy cover and publishing format, 1966. So I actually had a bunch more starred things that I thought were interesting to share with people, but I'll just start then. This may not be as interesting, people, but I thought it was fascinating, particularly because I'm searching for some type of political framework or organization or tradition that could actually try to address the imbalance of power in the US. So still searching. The first thing is page 25, and it's basically about, this has happened many times. Here we go. Here's a good quote for the book. Kind reader, history is repeating itself in our own fair land. Monopoly is eating out the very vitals of our existence, like Prometheus, Eloise. Usury and extortion have fastened their iron jaws upon every industry of the land. Labor is burdened beyond endurance. Trusts, syndicates, and combinations demand extortion on everything we buy. Tariffs. And transportation companies, pools, and middlemen levy tribute on everything we sell. We are traveling the same road to death that the nations gone before have traveled. We are told by the politicians that they will save us. So we have always been told. Our task becomes harder and life becomes more burdensome. Reform never begins with the leaders. It comes from the people. And this is a article source. W. Scott Morgan, History of the Wheel and Alliance and the Impending Revolution from 1889. But I thought that was a good sum up. And, you know, a lot of these things are remarkably relevant. So I thought that's why it's interesting to show people that, hey, it's come before. This is why you need to read historical fiction, right? Page 35, The Danger of Plutocracy. All right, so vesting in the hands of private individuals, the immense enginery of having absolute control of the commerce of a nation, Amazon, whereby is enjoyed the power to tax and to grant immunities, pardon power, is attended with dangers of so grave a character as to render the question of the perpetuity of small r republican institutions extremely uncertain. So we live in a republic. Our institutions have a uncertain future, is what he's saying, because of the monopolists, which I hardly agree with. Page 44, it's another Biblioserendipity moment. So maybe you've heard me talk about Margaret Atwood's book about debt. It's a small nonfiction book, which Margaret Atwood is not known for, but I think it's from the 90s, and it was around 2008. That's right. It was in response to the 2008 crisis. And it's talking about debt and debt throughout history and values around debt and psychological burdens around debt. It was a really good book, but it's hard to find. And here's a good quote. Competition is a word not found in the debtor's dictionary. Well, quote, what power in civilized society, end quote, says Macaulay, quote, is so great as that of the creditor over the debtor, end quote. So basically, we can have competition to borrow money, but not to lend money. I think that's what it's trying to say. I think I'm saying it right, but I think you get the idea. And Macaulay is a big 19th century thinker, philosopher, writer. And that came from Charles H. Atkin from The Ills of the South or Related Causes Hostile to the General Prosperity of the Southern People, 1894. Oh, yeah. So I may need to revisit that book because it had a lot of really good points. Let's see. Page 58, 59. Oh, this is the one on top here. Money power. All right. So there are several essays in this book that really took me back to monetary theory from grad school. Because if you think about it, I was studying in 2006 about monetary theory, and it was the stuff that was like introduced in the 1870s, 80s, 90s, and really like shit the bed the first time. So it was interesting to have people who were trying to understand how money works and trying to explain it to the common people in like a Grange Hall or like a writing in a newspaper, and try to follow how they were describing things because it was so new to all of them. They didn't just take it for granted. Like when you do this, this does that or whatever, which is what I had to learn. So yeah, this is a longer section, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me and I'm a huge nerd, but I found this really interesting. Do you ask for evidence that this people were deliberately robbed by a band of men at the head of our government, who were in league with the money power of Europe? If so, please read and ponder the confidential circular which was issued in 1862 by English capitalists who commissioned one Hazard, a London banker, to propagate its principles among American bankers, with a view of having the finance legislation of Congress pave the way for its final adoption as the settled policy of this nation. How well they succeeded is best told by millions of wrecked fortunes and ruined homes. Here is the infernal document. Is a quote from the circular. Slavery is from 1862. Slavery is likely to be abolished by the war power and chattel slavery destroyed. This I and my European friends are in favor of, for slavery is but the owning of labor and carries with it the care for the laborer. While the European plan, led on by England, is capital control of labor by controlling wages. This can be done by controlling the money. The great debt that capitalists will see to it is made out of the war must be used as a measure to control the volume of money. So they're using debt, indebtedness, as a control on the money supply, which helps inflation and lending. To accomplish this, the bonds must be used as a banking basis. We are now waiting to get the Secretary of the Treasury to make his recommendation to Congress. Lobbying. It will not do to allow the greenback, as it is called, to circulate as money any length of time, for we cannot control that. But they can control the gold, is the subtext there. So then you've got Sir John Lubbock of England against that. And then you've got Abraham Lincoln saying this is going to be dangerous, guys. And yeah, here's the last part of that section. Near the close of the war, in reply to a letter from a friend in Illinois, President Lincoln said, "Yes, we may all congratulate ourselves that this cruel war is nearing to a close. It has cost a vast amount of treasure and blood. The best blood of the flower of American youth has been freely offered upon our country's altar that the nation might live. It has been, indeed, a trying hour for the Republic, small r. But I see in the near future a crisis approaching that unnerves me and causes me to tremble for the safety of my country. As a result of the war, corporations have been enthroned, and an era of corruption in high places will follow. And the money power of the country will endeavor to prolong its reign by working upon the prejudices of the people until all wealth is aggregated in a few hands and the Republic, big R, is destroyed. I feel at this moment more anxiety for the safety of my country than ever before, even in the midst of the war. God grant that my suspicion may prove groundless. Yeah, and that was on an essay about the demonetization of silver by Sarah E.V. Emery. 7 Financial Conspiracies Which Have Enslaved the American People, 1888. But like, is any of this echoing eerily in the ears? That's 3 E's of anyone in the audience. That's 2 A's. Like this, I think this is a good book for Gareth if he could get it, but it's obviously going to be a hard one to find. It just hits really hard. Let's see, page 114. We have a quote. It's just a funny quote. In short, the most utterly useless, destructive, and damnable crop a country can grow is millionaires. And we could edit that to billionaires for our times. And that is from a Utopia novel called Gabriel's Utopia by the populist Ignatius Donnelly, who I have done a bit of research on. It seems like an interesting person. 152. Got two more little things here to share. Oh, okay. 152 is about the cycle of poverty. And again, rings really true, especially in places like Portland. I ask you now, what can the poor man do today that comes to you and says, I have hands to work with? I have bodily strength. I am willing to give all those for a morsel of bread. But you say, I have no work to give you. What is he to do then? Can he go and lie down on the street for rest? No, because there are laws against vagabondage. Can he go and crawl into a boxcar and take a nap there? No, because he is trespassing upon the rights and privileges of others. Can he go to the door and ask for something to eat? No, because there are laws against begging. Can he go out into the fields and cultivate the fields? No, because the fields belong to somebody else. Can he draw a drink of water out of the spring or well in the field? No, because the spring or well belongs to the man who owns the field. What in the name of goodness is he to do? Answer me that question in the light of our present civilization and government. Don't you have some sympathy for the men in this position? And that is from a speech by Lorenzo Dow Llewellyn, another. Oh, he was a governor of Kansas, July 26th, 1894. So good speech, good appeal, I think. And again, still resonant today, unfortunately. It's only gotten worse, I think. And then final little piece to share from the Populist Reader is about the two-party system, which I think has real relevance for today. That there exists a feeling of dissatisfaction with and bitter antagonism to both the Republican, big R, and Democratic, big D, parties is not to be gainsaid. Can't be denied. Broken promises to labor, insincere, half-hearted support, and even antagonism of legislation in the interest of the toilers, on the one hand, and the alacrity and devotion with which the interests of the corporations and the wealth-possessing class are nurtured, protected, and advanced on the other, have had their effect. And the result is that many toilers have forever severed their connection with the old parties. So yeah, I mean, not to give a false equivalence, but, you know, when one party's kissing up to the rich folks and the other is breaking all their promises to the poor folks, like, where does that leave people who don't have the reins in their hands, if you'll allow the expression? Ugh. So yeah, yeah. So lots of like antiquated language and, you know, drier text and political and like economic theory stuff, but this was easier to get through than I don't know what I was just reading that was really dense, but we'll go over current reads. Maybe it's one of my current reads, and I thought this was really valuable. So let's see. So Greg says, I looked at the table of contents to the Populist Reader. There are some good pieces, including from the anti-populist perspective. Yeah, there's a few that call the populist myth and whatnot. Yeah. Leslie, hello. Greetings, fellow geriatric millennial. Hello, JD. Welcome. Yes, I have a whole outfit going on. Check the question of the day for the inspiration. Yeah. You got a capitalism in your throat there, Margaret? Exactly. And Greg is reminding us that his master's thesis was on the urban response to the People's Party, which is interesting because there are some people who are labor representatives and like Knights of Labor explaining why they're not going to endorse anyone in a particular election because no one's for their interests. It's interesting. Mojo's laughing. I think at my coughing. Yeah, very, very subtle call outs there. JD to Eloise. I think that most politicians who are better known lately for gargling. I've never heard it called gargling before. Well, what politicians are doing, definitely gargling. Yeah, whatever. Tasman needs to hop off. Enjoy your day too. Sending love. Thank you. JD says, anxiety is never a present moment exclusive. Yeah. JD, I know you're super busy, but the one before this about modernity, I think you would enjoy the little passages that I shared from it. So it's a really good one. Eloise says, the wheel never stops, and it's big enough that we forget what crushed us last time before it comes back around to do it again. That's interesting. Is that from something, or did you just think that up? That's that's a very good metaphor. Yeah, Lord, this is so current, right? 130 years ago. Yeah. It's amazing what has and has not changed since the Gilded Age. Yep. This is like watching Stand Up by George Carlin or Bill Hicks. Yeah. Comedy. Yeah. That's a good type of comedy. Any hairstyle which preserves my hair is welcome. And Viva la 90s grunge. There you go. You're calling the 90s historical. You realize that's what you're doing there. But all right. Take your fate in your hands. I'll be fine. It's not from anything. You can call me an author or something, the way I can spin a metaphor. Spin the wheel. I like it. To be explicit, gargling bowls, namely of people who need to be checked. Oh, we're getting into like indecorous metaphors. Thank you, JD. Oh, and I did it on purpose. The late 1900s. Yeah. 90s grunge. Like the flannel shirts or the baggy jeans or whatever. An item from the history. I like it. Yeah. Jot that down. Yeah, so glad you clicked. Oh boy. Okay. Let's see. So yes, I got through all the books. I did go through the little things on all of them. I will pop links to purchase them in the description after. But I hope like some of those get your blood flowing, because that's what it does to me when I read it. And then the whole point of the channel is to like talk to people about reads that are interesting. There's one question I had about monopolies that I'm not sure of the tone of the writer. So like people who want to talk about these things, make it more interesting. Buddy reads, etc. Response videos. I might be coming up with a response video pretty soon. I promised Brian one, and some of his points are on my list. So we'll see if that comes out. Current reads. So anyone can put their current reads in the chat, and I will share a few of mine. I'll just share the newer ones because there's some that I have had for a while. Rapidly going through this one. It's a comfort read. Made from Scratch, Discovering the Pleasures of a Handmade Life by Jenna Wogenrich. She is a homesteader, urban homesteader in Idaho somewhere. And she's written a book this a few years ago. I just found it, and it just sounded nice to listen to someone talk about raising chickens and, looking at seed catalogs and relaxing in an analog life that just denies all of the crap that we have to go through. So that's been a good, restful read. This is for March on the Rails. I just started a little bit of it. Railway by George Revel. It's part of the Object series with a K, which I think is German. Anyway, it's got pictures in it. It's cool. It's like a historical textbook, sort of, but about railways. It's one to like read a little bit, put it down, read a little bit, put it down. So I may not get through this in March because it's a lot, but it's interesting. So maybe I'll just finish it in April. We've got this that I started. I don't know why I pulled this off the shelf. The Life and Adventures of William Cobbett by Richard Ingram. So this is a biography of 1800-ish writer who had a very interesting career, got thrown into jail, was seen as being for the common man, kind of like a Thomas Paine of England, and has been like revised by history in some ways. So I'm just sort of getting more into that. It's interesting. And then the little fun one of my pre-order campaign books, The Hearth Witch's Guide to Magic and Murder by Kiri Callahan. And this is dealing with fae, but it's sort of got a Sherlockian interpretation, as in the half fae that is working on the case is living in 221 Baker Street and has just met someone from the Hudson lineage. So there's lots of like nods to Sherlock Holmes in here, but it's also like magic and funny and witchy. And yeah, so it's a big book, but it's one of these like easy to read ones. So I thought that'd be fun. There's like a cafe and donuts and tea and whatnot. So I'm working on that. It's a good mix. So that's what I'm dealing with. How about you guys? So the point was to get us to talk, not write. JD, finished my second volume of Daydreams as I research and jot notes for future project, reading Yarkins, sci-fi Spanish. Cool. Also reading some short story collections. Nice. Greg is one of the co-hosts of the March on the Rails readathon, so it's all books about trains for Greg. Pretty cover, good timing. Which one was that about? Hi, Elaine. Which one was that about? Is that the railway book or the witch book? I can't remember. Mojo says, A License to Curse by Kim Richardson is her current read. Was supposed to start while on my trip, but I decided, what the hell? Yeah. In advance, that's fine. I'll definitely allow it. So I'll encourage it. Oh yeah, magic and witchy. Yeah, it's fun. And there's baking involved. So yeah. There's even recipes actually. This is the kind of fantasy book where they put footnotes in that are sort of tongue-in-cheek, which sometimes I like and sometimes I think is stupid. But for this one, she's referencing the recipes in the footnotes as well. So that's kind of helpful. Caramel apple baked pancake. Like there's some like fun stuff. Hi, Elaine. Eloise is going to read Emma's new book in the evenings and go through my own book in the mornings for my rewrite. That is an ambitious plan. Is work fitting in there somewhere? I don't know. Kappa asks, is the rail readathon for March or April? It's March. It's March on the Rails, I think. So yeah, it's a longer month, right? By one day. Elaine says, just started Dark Tarot. Good so far. New author, Christine Feehan. And have I heard about that author before, or was it just recently for your channel? It might have been the latter. No, I'm pretty sure I've heard about it before. It's just like urban fantasy, I think. Like mass market paperback size. That's what I'm getting in my head. But who knows? The internal structures of modernity are breaking down. So who knows? Good. Okay, that's a big range in current reads as well. We got short story collections, we got Spanish, we got urban fantasy, we've got, what is it? License to Burn? License to Curse. These are all fun. These are fun. Mojo says, I love Christy. Yay. Kappa says, I'll just reread Full Steam Ahead then. Easy. What kind of book is that? Full Steam Ahead could be anything. I assume there's a train in it, but like what genre? What genre is it? That'd be fun. Yeah, so that's us today. Thanks for being here. I'm going to stick around for a minute. I'm just popping up the banner so I don't forget. I didn't forget the banners today, everyone. Yay! Sometimes I just completely forget them, even having done them in advance, like 10 minutes in advance. I just forget. I get too caught up in the chat. You guys are too fun. Hate I had to leave behind so many of her books. Oh, okay. So I think I'm right that she's got a lot of urban fantasy. Eloise, if you keep talking about trains, you're going to summon Richard. I mean, I've already gone through colonialism and monopolies. I think he would have come by now if he was going to be summoned. He must be busy. I was thinking Emma would be here, but it's the day after her launch, so I'm sure she's like got stuff going on. Man, oh man, this is fun. All right, so yeah, I hope you can get excited about some of these reads and follow along with me. Oh, now I've mixed up my current reads. Done. There we go. Okay, don't want to get confused. Thank you for watching, everyone. Thanks for being here and sharing this time with me. It's, I think, going to be a bit longer on Friday because I'm doing only 2 tags, but I have a lot of answers to the prompts. They vaguely just said a few, and so I'm I'm going to be extra. And yeah, so it should be lots of fun on Friday. If you can join us for a double tag stream, that'd be fun. Yep, big ol' hugs. Happy, as the MSW media folks call it, taint of the week, hump day, whichever you want to call it. I didn't say his name 3 times. Nope. Elaine finished Destination Murder. Ooh, she read a train book. That's fun. All right. Full Steam Ahead is Ruth Goodman. Oh, one of your favorites, Peter Jin, who I don't know. Also available on DVD. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Happy reading, everyone. Take care. Diversify that shelf. That's a good reminder on my banner. And hopefully see you on Friday. But if not, have a great weekend and working through that week in the current chaos. Take care of yourself.